Welcome back to This Is The GSA Way. Originally, I was going to do a podcast catching us up, bringing us up to speed on everything that's happened at GreenSquareAccord over the last weeks and months. However, there's been so much going on, certainly a lot behind the scenes, that I'm now going to do this in some shorter, sort of 5 to 10 minute videos that I can release over the next couple of weeks. And the first one we're focusing on is the departures, as we wish farewell, so long, goodbye, au revoir to Steve Hayes. All that and more on this episode of This Is The GSA Way.
When it all go, won't start drifting, stealing sway, it's the GSA way. One more to say.
Now, for those of you who are familiar, who have watched This Is The GSA Way podcast before, you'll know that we do not put words into people's mouths. No. We let people speak for themselves. So here is Steve Hayes' LinkedIn post on his sudden, one might assume sudden, who might not be, let's assume sudden departure from GreenSquareAccord.
After 4 great years at GSA, the time has come for an exciting new chapter. From building and launching our new business strategy and values to leading colleague conferences for 3,000 people. From launching our colleague awards and watching them flourish to leading the fit out and move to our fantastic new office in Birmingham. From creating the Mrs. Tranter murder mystery learning exercise and watching it flourish across the sector to transforming our colleague and customer communication and seeing clear results. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. All of this was only possible with the best comms team, full of skilled, passionate people who wanted to make a difference and bought into my vision for what a communications function should look like. We've done great things together, which I will always remember, and, most importantly, we made a difference. Thank you to the many friends I have made at GSA. I will miss you greatly, and it was a genuine pleasure working alongside you all. Exciting opportunities lie ahead, and I can't wait to share more about these in the coming weeks. For now, I have a rare chance to take a few weeks to rest and prepare for my next adventure.
Well, there you have it again. Steve Hayes, in his own word, it's all been a great joy. It's been a tremendous success. From launching the new business strategy, he came in, I think we were probably already on our second one, with the first one having fallen by the wayside. The second one certainly did, and now we're on a third or fourth. So, building and creating a strategy with all your values is one thing. Actually implementing it and being able to look back and go, look, that's in place and it's working and here are the results, are something different. So that's not really something we should celebrate. Leading colleague conferences, well, we know he likes to be on a stage in front of people. That's where he wants to be. Amateur dramatics, you name it, he's there. For 3,000 people, well, look at the cost for that. For us residents who are struggling in a cost of living crisis and who are paying an ever-increasing service charge, and who probably couldn't name or pick out anyone at GreenSquareAccord worthy of celebrating, and that's not due to their own abilities or inabilities, it's due to the fact that they can't process because they don't have the systems in place, they don't have the backup, they don't have the procedures, they don't have anything in place to support them when they are, dealing with the bread and butter, the core business, their customers, us residents. He goes on to go, Mrs. Tranter, well, I've got a complaint that's just come out of dealing with a fire alarm, and I'll publish more about it as the time goes on. But it was clear that, the guys on the end of the phone just didn't have the procedures in place. It's not about whether you can dazzle people with your customer service. If the policies aren't in place, it just falls on dead wood. And these guys didn't know what they were doing, couldn't transfer it to the right person, couldn't get over security. It was just a disaster. And that was the problem with Mrs. Tranter. Mrs. Tranter is telling customers how to communicate, how we need to be, communicating well, and how it's reduced complaints. It hasn't. He's changed the parameter of the complaint, so it looks like it's gone down. And any of the housing associations who brought into this, I think Magna Housing were one, more fool you. Anyway, it's only possible with the best comms team in the world. Please tell me it was more than just him and Laura. There can't be more people involved in this than him and Laura's currently on maternity leave. We have to think about the wages. You have to bring down the service charge. GSA need to bring down the service charge. And to do that, they need to get rid of things like the nice things, like the flowers in the office, the plants. They need to focus on repairing homes, not award ceremonies. And look, here's a picture, as you saw in the previous one, of Steve and Laura an award. They nominate themselves for these. There's no You don't have to prove your ability. You nominate, you pay for a table. If it's a luck of the pick, you get chosen. We're not fooled by it anymore. And I think the issue that we have with Steve Hayes and his approach has been, as I discussed in an earlier podcast, GreenSquareAccord is drowning in a sea of its incompetence. The failed merger between GreenSquare and Accord, which has brought on more dilapidated properties, which they haven't been able to fund. He was then brought in to manage the reputation, right? So I get that. There's a need for him to speak and to go on loquaciously about how well they're doing. His actions, with the backing, I keep hitting this microphone, with the backing of Sophie Atkinson and Ruth Cook, have led to GreenSquareAccord being mentioned in ITV, constant news press articles. They've been mentioned in the House of Commons twice, part of the anti-slaps debate. He's tried to have me removed from YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X. I don't think he had to get a Blue Sky. All of those he's trying to get me removed from. He's trying to have countless posts. He's trying to get my website taken down through my website provider. And then when it got to, let's go to court on that one, he welched. It's because I've been telling the truth. They've never come after me for slander. The most important thing, though, is Steve Hayes had me arrested. I've never met the man, never even spoke to him. Imagine what we could have done had we spoken. Never spoken with the man, never met the man, and yet he chose to have me arrested for harassment, for stalking him at events I'd never been to. It's a complete lie. And what's more telling in that is when I issued the police complaint said, he knew exactly the right words to trigger the response. And the response was 6 policemen arriving at my door 1 a.m. on a Monday morning to remove me from my home and confiscate my phone for a week and release me on bail until it was all dropped with no further action after a week or so. But he made that up. And when I complained to GreenSquareAccord, and I suspect, and we're going to come on to this next bit, part of the reason Steve Hayes has been given the big heave-ho was because GreenSquareAccord claims that it was him working alone. It was his actions alone. Yet the police said, no, he knew the words. It was backed by Sophie Atkinson. And Sophie Atkinson then posted on LinkedIn, "He stand by Steve," which, isn't true because they've just sold him down the river. So, Steve Hayes is off. Now, don't worry, he's landed on his feet. Creative Bridge Company, he is an executive director, have gladly stepped up and given him a position. So we don't need to worry about him not being able to pay his mortgage. He's also relaunched his voiceover activities. So he's back doing what he likes best, putting on voices and doing impressions of people. Good for you, Steve. Good luck. I wish you all the best. I think you would have struggled to have found a position within the housing association world because of the tarnish that he's got. Creative Bridge has already got that reputation with, and it looks very much a sort of smaller position based on business development. And good luck to him. He can exploit his contacts at the likes of the Chartered Institute of Housing and win over all those people who supposedly think he's fabulous and try and dredge up new business for Creative Bridge. Good luck to him. Now, we get on to, Steve wasn't the only one to go. So we'll move on to the next section. We'll say, bon voyage, Steve Hayes. We will miss you. In fact, order a wicker basket, fill it with fruit. Let's get that sent over. Departure was Helen Pennock. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correct. Apologies if I'm not. I didn't have much to do with Helen, and the subject access requests that showed internal emails, she never came up. She never appeared on my radar. I had her on my housing directory, the who's who at GreenSquareAccord, and I have updated that to say that she's now left. No hard feelings. On you go, Helen. We've all worked for people where we thought, God, I don't know about this. And perhaps she did. Perhaps she's left of her own accord. However, I think it's unlikely. Again, it read more like been put on garden leave. Before we come on to garden leave, I have updated Helen, as I've said. I've removed her. You could still link, but it's there. And there wasn't much written about her. But Steve Hayes is obviously a wealth of information. He is still up. If you search his name, they haven't taken down his website on GreenSquareAccord, his page on GreenSquareAccord. The only one. He set it up to sort of combat my directory listing that I had for him. And that's still up and running. And I see no reason why I would remove any of the content with Steve Hayes. I see absolutely no purpose in doing that. I think it needs to be there as a stark reminder to the sector that this old style form of communication has passed. It doesn't work anymore. It no longer cuts the mustard. We don't believe the hype. So it's up there as a lesson to everyone. If Steve wants me to take it down, Well, you've tried going through YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, as we said, you've gone through all of those. Why not approach me directly? Ben at Housing Sector, you've got my phone number, you've got my email address. Pick up the phone, drop me an email. If there's a conversation to be had, I will consider removing your content. At the minute, I think it's very relevant. Helen's will be removed, but the fact that two leaders, and Steve Hayes never made the directory page, he wasn't one of the senior leaders, head of the comms team wasn't particularly valued as a position, I don't think. But Helen has left as well, also on garden leave, I suspect. Now, we have to ask why. Why are there suddenly so many changes going on to the senior leadership team? And the senior leadership team goes through changes. I mean, finance directors come and go. Head of properties, they just come and go. It's a revolving door at GreenSquareAccord, which brings us on to the fundamental question: is when do we face facts that it's Ruth Cook who is the one to fault here? You know, if you're not letting your team do their job, and let's play devil's advocate for a minute, perhaps Steve Hayes did want to reach out to me early on. Perhaps when he first started, he said, hey, we need to have a conversation with this guy. Perhaps that was his mindset and he was stopped from doing so. This was when GreenSquareAccord were hell-bent on bringing legal action against me. So he wasn't part of that legal action. He wasn't there. He just became part of it through no fault of his own. Bless him. You need to stand up to be part of if you're a decent boss and you employ someone and they go, I don't think that's a good idea, here are the reasons, and your boss doesn't agree with you, it's either because they know something you don't know, or they don't respect your thoughts on it, or they're just doing it because they want to do it. It's up to them. They're in charge. They're doing it their way. And you can't work for people like that. So perhaps that's why we got a leadership team constantly revolving. It may also be, and we're going to cover this in the next podcast, so let's wrap this one up now, that the regulator of social housing is now reinvestigating them. So in the next episode of this ongoing short series, we will look at what might be going on in the background there. And again, asking the question, how come Sophie Atkinson's still in her place? How come Ruth Cook's still there? What are the board doing? And if you haven't caught up on the podcast I recorded earlier today, out earlier this week with Hannah regarding board oversight, then you can do that. I will put a link in here to that now. So Steve Hayes is gone. Helen Pennock gone. Garden leave. Pushed out to garden leave. Steve Hayes landed on his feet. Good for you, Steve. Helen, not sure about, but we wish you all the best in the world. Helen no longer featured on the GreenSquareAccord resident website. Helen, if you do find yourself, I will do what I did for Rachel Crownshaw. And I kind of regret that because she was a bad egg. It was clear that people were Googling her name and finding her on the GreenSquareAccord resident support site. If that happens, please let me know. If you think you should be removed, and if you're a previous employee of GSA, and you don't think you should be on there, pick up the phone, have a chat, email me, and, you know, if I think it's worth it or it's no longer relevant, I'll gladly remove it. Now, I have reached out to GreenSquareAccord several times to sort of open a line of dialogue to talk about how relevant the website actually is now. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I do want to focus on the housing sector, but they never come back going, yes, let's have a conversation. And they never do. And that's something else we're going to cover. That's something else on my ever-growing list of GreenSquareAccord things to talk about. All right, let's wrap this one up now. Thank you very much indeed. Next one will be out in the next couple of days. God bless you all. Cheerio. Goodbye.
We're leaving you, Skidoo. Goodbye. We wish you fun. Goodbye.